Hey, how are we doing? It's Don. It's live show night tonight, Thursday, 7 p.m. Hopefully we're all coming out okay. Hopefully we can hear everything that's going on today. It's been a busy week. The wife will be on. Mark will be on in just a little while here. I've got the typical usual questions. I've got a few other things here.
Hey, how are we doing? It's Don. It's live show night tonight, Thursday, 7 p.m. Hopefully we're all coming out okay.
I'll open up some questions in just a few moments here as well. I got a complaint. I'm just going to talk about this real quick just to get out of the way.
I've got the typical
on my haul video
questions.
And the complaint was that, you know,
hey, how are we doing?
I sell. Why would I watch?
Live show night tonight.
I don't really know why you want to watch it.
7 p.m. Hopefully we're all coming out.
That one honestly caught me off guard. I usually don't get something on a haul video, and the video has quite a few negatives for something like that. In my world, if I see somebody selling something that makes a lot of money, I look at it. I want to know where they find it. What's all worth money in those categories. It kind of threw me off that comment came in like that. And I usually don't comment on these, but again, I look at haul videos and things like that very rarely. But if I see something that somebody's making money on,
hey, how are we doing? Live show night tonight.
Where they find it. What's all worth money in those categories. It kind of threw me off that comment came in like that. And I usually don't comment on these, but again, I look at haul videos and things like that very rarely. But if I see something that somebody's making money on,
hey, how are we doing? Live show night tonight.
Fix that. Maybe that's a little better, hopefully. Let me see if I can adjust anything. Audio stuck in a loop still. He doesn't read chat, so it may be a while. No, I'm looking at chat here. Can anybody let me know if it sounds any better right now? Keeps looping, Don. So it is good now. Okay, there's some kind of setting on here too. I've avoided using Hangouts mostly because we have Hangouts issues. So I've got some new things going into play here. It looks like it's just a simpleton setting that I just didn't clear off. I ran a test from here actually maybe 10 minutes before the live show before I started. So it was working then. I must just have clicked a button by accident prior to going live again. So the topic was, if you missed that part, is complaining about haul videos. You can complain. It doesn't bother me if somebody dislikes a video or something. You know, I get people that'll come and dislike every single video, but they'll watch them all. So it doesn't make much sense to me. You know, it's just, I guess, I don't know. I hate to say it, but somebody else told me jealousy. I mean, I know who two of the people are who leave most all the feedback. They're people that were kicked off that literally go on to other sites and badmouth me. No big deal, because I don't really care. Thumbs up, thumbs down still counts as movement on my channel. YouTube doesn't look at a negative as a negative. It just looks at it as, you know, activity on your video. So, but the point of it is, if I see somebody else selling something that, like, let's say it's a record video mostly. Most of my haul, that last haul video that I put up, it was like 2:30 in the morning I put it up, was on records. Because they're cheap. We spent $33 and I think 47 cents on what I purchased. List price is $3,500. I don't know anybody who would see something in person. I don't know anybody personally that would see something that you can get hundreds of dollars for almost nothing and not look into it. So if you don't enjoy the hunt and looking into something new, I mean, I don't know why you're in this industry or why you're doing reselling in the beginning. And I'm going to touch on another subject there because this has been brought up a couple times, as well as I discussed in Patreon, and I get the same question a lot. As a new person, constantly I'm asked, what should I center in on? Should I pick a niche? Now, I'll get to questions in just a minute here, as everybody can hear us, but when you're just starting off, you have to pretty much sell whatever you can find. You're not going to have the knowledge or experience to have a niche yet. I didn't pick paper as a niche. I didn't pick postcards as a niche. It just happened. And that's just a fact. I was never looking to do any of this kind of stuff full time. I was literally looking to go to college and, you know, get some nice job somewhere. But this is what happened. You go with the flow. You go with what happened. So I never picked a niche. It found me because we could get the stuff. I would never recommend anybody starting off and saying, let me get a niche, because what's going to happen is you're going to miss all the other stuff that's out there in these locations while you're sourcing, while you're only looking for a certain few specific things. Unless you've got some massive amount of material, you're just not going to be able to find enough in any niche when you first start off. And again, like records. Records is a niche that if you did dig into, that is one of the easiest niches to find items in, I should say. Maybe not the easiest to find high dollar ones, but you're going to be able to make some money in, say, records, because I can't go anywhere without finding some records. We went out, the wife and my youngest son, we went out sourcing the other day. Had no intention on finding any records, because I've never really messed with records in any of the places we've been to before. But everywhere I went, I found records for nothing, 50 cents or less for the most part. And in some cases, I got 40 records, or 39 actually, for $5. And every one of those records, every one of the ones that I plucked was worth at least $15 or more. It'll have a $19.99 list price on it. So you can't pick a niche if you don't know how to source that niche. I never ever recommend niches for anybody until they know what they're doing in some aspect. I don't center in on any specific item when I'm out sourcing at all. Not at all. I don't care what I run into. The key of it is to look up every single thing you see until you know for sure what they're worth. I can, flip through records like, nobody else, it seems like, because I keep getting comments, boy, you go through them quicker. If I'm outsourcing with somebody, they're still looking at the first stack and I'm almost done with them. Once you know the stuff, you're not going to have to worry about looking all this stuff up. But at the beginning, you got to look up every single thing. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's a toothpick holder or a box of light bulbs. Everything could have value if you're not familiar with the item. I've watched, there was a globe that we were at the thrift store. It might be in the video, I don't remember. But it was a massive 18-inch globe. And the only reason I didn't get it is because I didn't have any room to put it in a vehicle. Whatever you find at these places, anything can hold value. It was almost to the point where we'd have held on to it. But again, anything can hold value. Moonlight. Let me answer a question. You're moonlighting warrior, regretting buying 100 records for 50 cents each. They are a pain in the butt for $4 to $5 each on eBay. Depends on how you wrap them, I should tell you. I usually don't sell or mess with records unless they're worth $7.99 as a 45 or $15 or more as a 78. I won't list any 99-cent records. Packing up records are a snap if you know how to do it. You got to be into records as well, too. Records do sell very well for us. I don't, as I said, mess with $4 and $5 records. $7.99 I will mess with, but there won't be any offers if it's a $7.99 record. If it's an offer record, it's $9.99, and I won't take anything less than $7.99. A 45 record takes me about maybe 40 seconds to wrap, start to finish. You can watch my pack videos. A 45 is easy as can be. It's 3 pieces of cardboard. They're folded, and then it's taped, and then the label goes on. There's nothing to it. A 78 takes me 4 minutes, maybe, I should say, to wrap at the most. But, it's $15 I'm getting. It's $1 or less investment. So after fees and all said and done, for $12, for 4 minutes of my time, I'm taking home $12. I don't think that's a bad thing. Multiply that 12 times 15, and that's what I would make an hour doing that. So that's pretty darn good money. Again, you got to be into records somewhat to do records. And again, that's just an example. I've got a ton of niches. We've got like 20 different niches that I'm very experienced in and very knowledgeable in. But again, it's not bragging. It's just the facts from doing this for 20 plus years of sourcing. So I think the wife's here now too, so why don't we have her step out? She's got some stuff to do a little later as well, so we're going to slide over and let her in here. But on niches, hello. That's the key on it. Obviously, my lovely wife today, Marky, is here, so she is usually with us. She does go sourcing when we go sourcing.
Stuck. Okay.
You're stuck. So anyway, it's a family business. She was with us when we went sourcing. I know she probably got a little aggravated because I don't find records like that. And
as soon as I saw all the records, I went, I'm going to be here a while.
yeah, she usually knows. I didn't look through any of the LPs at all. I only looked at, it's kind of weird.
Oh, shit, my hair. Oh, excuse me, my hair looks horrible, doesn't it?
It's the way your hair is pulled back, I guess. Yeah, we've got a green screen, and unfortunately it looks weird sometimes. I've got another one coming in. It's going to be a blue screen, so it'll actually avoid some of these issues. We've got other plans, so the green screen is semi-essential to some extent.
The green screen hates me.
It just hates you. I don't know what it is.
Hates my hair.
Here, we can fix it a little bit here. Sorry, folks. Hang on just a second here. Let's see what we can do.
I don't care. I'm just like,
Yeah, but life goes on, so hang on just a second.
What are you going to do?
What
I could put on a wig.
What are we going to do?
I need to get some of those wigs like Dolly Parton. Just glamour, blonde, big wigs.
I think we got it off there now. Okay, sorry about that, folks. Yeah, it's a petty thing here to deal with. Let's go through some questions here, and we'll go through those first. I do look at chat. I just when I answer a question, I want to answer it fully and completely, and I try to start from start to finish. So I know I don't get to all the questions, but I answer them all. I don't pop around. I know some other chats and other people's chats I've been on, they just bop around and they'll pass up any question that they don't want to mess with. I answer them all. Anyway, that's just me. There's Duncan with the spiders again. Welcome, Carl. Duncan, I got Miss Mimi. Meredethi, how you doing? Mary, welcome. Miss Mimi is here. I do not know when Chris is on. I just chatted with him a few minutes before the show, quite a few minutes ago. But welcome, Rich. How you doing? Heather the reseller, welcome. Treasure experts, welcome. Hey, Disney Family 515. Yeah, on the haul videos, I know sometimes they bounce around. I use spy glasses because most of the time you can't bring a video in. And I've been asked to turn it off on a few occasions. So I don't do hauls very much, and half of the time I get asked to shut it off. So, I just wear the glasses. There's no sign that says you can't record in the building. So, I'm not violating any rule or anything that I'm aware of.
Just get your own little crew like the Trailer Park Boys.
Yeah, the Trailer Park Boys crew.
I'm just videotaping my life, man.
I don't think that would go over very well. Brown Bushman, how we doing? Rosanna, welcome. KRB. Ethan, how we doing? PG. Got quite a few people in the house today, it looks like. Let's see here.
Hey, we got the
Pick
same
with
glass.
Joy, how are you doing? Yeah, I grabbed the same one. I saw you had that too. Carrie Barry's mom, welcome. Lady Luck Junk, how are you doing? Rocky Brook is bulk sourcing. I went and picked up free garage sale stuff as so far over 200 and sold comps.
Oh.
Can't beat that.
No,
I don't mess with garage sales even at all pretty much anymore. If I drive by one and it looks good, I might stop, but
if they have Legos.
Well, something like that. But I don't run into many Legos used anymore. We bought a whole bunch wholesale from
dirt cheap.
Well, just like last Christmas, we sold a lot of the Elves Lego sets, like 100 and some odd sets we sold of those. But again, those go on Amazon most of the time on those. I don't usually mess with one-offs of new items on eBay like that. I get more on Amazon. You got to be ungated though, but Legos I've been able to sell for a long time. I know some other people are ungated in Legos too. I think Chris actually is, if I'm not mistaken.
Who doesn't like Legos?
They sell well. I mean, I've talked about Legos before. Maybe I'll do just a Lego video, but some of the minifigures, like Mr. Freeze, was like $100, $110. Some of the sand people from the original Star Wars, first Star Wars Lego sets are different than the newer ones. Some of those can go from $40 and $50. I mean, just parts of Lego figures can go for $50 to say $70. Rock and Roll Resale, welcome from New York. I've been to New York many times. We were there actually for right after 9/11, actually.
I was there in the 80s for the filming of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And I got to meet John Candy. I was in Manhattan. Ooh.
Yeah, I don't think you got to go when we were living in D.C. Yeah,
No,
she didn't get to go. When I was usually on business trips or going for the company or moving equipment around or such forth. Because I handled Washington, Virginia, and Maryland for Einstein Brothers Bagels. I was a regional, and I did all three of those areas, as well as obviously D.C. and then the military complexes we did as well too. Indiana buy, sell, repeat. Welcome. Let's see. Junk Girl. How are you doing, Junk Girl? Been through North Carolina quite a few times.
And then you got the echoes, and you fixed that, obviously.
Yeah, that was a simple button that I must have accidentally hit. My test came out fine, so I didn't think anything of it.
How dare you?
Yeah, I do. I test everything when I do this. Literally everything. And we've been changing around some apps to try and eliminate some of the other issues. Another reason not to use Google Hangouts is because it always seems to have issues lately. I think 3 out of 4 of Dom's shows were canceled. I had 1 or 2 of mine canceled. Chris had several of his canceled. I know Scott did. A lot of people did, just because the Hangouts isn't working half the time or wasn't. I actually saw areas that were blacked out on the Downage map actually today, so I didn't even want to try it today. We've got really bad weather in here.
Yes,
it's been
we do.
storming.
More rain, yay.
More rain, yeah.
We have flood warnings, too, in Lucas.
Yeah, the river, the Maumee River, which is the biggest river in the local area, is almost up to the flood stage. And in 2 areas, it's actually over the road, which it hadn't in the past. The weather-wise and climate and everything else is, global warming is much worse nowadays. I don't remember anything like this as a kid in the same area. Even temperature-wise outside, it's totally all over the place and haywire these days. The rain has just been the worst because we've got flood warnings for the entire Lake Erie, Great Lakes area in general.
We got flood warnings here until 8 o'clock.
Yeah, because it's just been horrendous. And there's not much flooding where we're at, but, just down the road, we know people who've had water in their yard for
you don't need
like
a pool.
month. Yeah, you don't
you
need a
can
pool.
just take swim out in the backyard.
Only thing about that, there are snakes, water snakes around here.
Oh, they just need
they
love.
bite, but
That's
they're not poisonous. But they'll be in people's yards like mad around here.
Pet snakes.
Let's pop down here and let's see here. Stony Creek Picker, welcome. Let me see where we're at. Amazon Seller 99, welcome. My great find for you. Yeah, it was a looping echo from a device that shouldn't have been turned on. That's all the sound was. Liquidation King LA. Yeah, I don't know why it repeated so much, but let's move past the sound issues since we've already got the sound.
Even the dogs complained.
Yeah, even the dogs complained. Let me pop down a little farther here.
Yep, see, they like, oh, hey, it's good.
Yeah, let's move it on. Yeah, that's when I fixed it. Okay, now we're past that. I'm sure my feed will disappear again, so anyway. I probably missed a few folks. Scott, welcome. Paul, welcome. Oregon Coast Estates. Ethan, Christina. Hey, Travis, how are you doing? Treasures by Grace. I don't think I missed anybody. If I did miss you, I do apologize. Mary. Again, we've got over 100 on right now, so I've got quite a few on the feed, too.
No more Twilight Zone.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I love it.
I will have to double check. Yeah, I just ran a test on it, too. It's amazing what one little button can do.
That song, The Twilight Zone, remember that?
Golden Earring.
Yes.
Yeah, Turtle Trader, welcome. Again, if I missed you, I do apologize. I've got quite a few treasure experts. Let's see where we at. Rocky Brook. Yeah, I think I did cover what I started with, the conversation.
Thought I was having a flashback.
Yeah, I wouldn't really want to have that. Welcome, Michelle. Welcome, Marrakech7. Bought some 8mm reels. One says Hong Kong, 1968. Another 2 are Olympiad, 72 Germany. Should I watch all content? And what should I look for to put in the titles? If it is Hong Kong, you've got at least $100 minimum, I would gather. I don't think I've ever sold even a 70s Hong Kong. We've had a couple not too long. In fact, I've got maybe 400 reels of 8mm film I haven't even touched. And you can see, there's a study, you see them right there too. I've got them all over the place. Usually what I'll do is my youngest son will watch them.
Yeah, but you really got to watch Remember?
Yeah, because we ended up, one of them was an adult one, and we had to,
old blue
yeah,
movie.
a blue movie. That's something you'll run into. I would definitely, most definitely watch something from Hong Kong for sure. What I would do is take key shots of downtown. Of key shots of downtown scenes. You can actually add a video clip to your listing, which helps them sell. I usually don't do that just because I've had people say that people can rip the content off. Most people are buying like a Hong Kong thing, might use it in a documentary or anything else like that. So I usually don't post clips of the video, but I will do single shots. What you're looking for are city scenes, police officers, or like fire trucks, or just massive downtown scenes with all kinds of vintage signs and Chinese text.
Those are nice.
That's what sells religiously for us. I just showed a postcard. We sold 3 China, Hong Kong area postcards for almost $400 a piece.
It was hard to let them go.
Yeah, I actually
really
keep some, but this is a street that I've had the same similar street images before. We collect and save photos of Hong Kong. I don't necessarily save the real photo postcards. Usually I sell those, but we made $1,200 on $3 investment on those 3 cards. So anything Hong Kong sells. A movie you definitely got to watch. The Olympiad probably won't go for as much, but it will have probably $40-50 minimum on any of those. The Hong Kong one, if you've got the right images, or let's say there's royalty shown in it, like the British monarchy was in the city at the time, or some event or a parade or anything like that, you could have some good value in it. There could be somebody famous in it. We watch every one of the videos, or 8mm that we have. And we actually, like, let's say I could sell a group of them for $100 of, say, 30 or 40 8mm films in a lot for $100. That's probably what I would get just for some average ones out there. If I watch them, or at least flip through them enough to say, hey, I can usually get $15-20 each for those same ones that I'm selling in a bulk. So we have 2 or 3 different movie projectors. I've got a real nice Japanese one that we had to have the belt fixed in, and then I've got a couple other older ones that you can freeze frame. That's one thing you want to make sure if you're going to play the 8mm. Have a freeze frame on your projector, a safe one, and it's going to be a little better projector to have a freeze frame, because with the cheaper ones, if you hold it in one spot, it's going to melt the film. That's why we actually invested in the Japanese, and I don't remember the brand name. I got it for $5.
It's something Japanese.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it. It's like a $400+ projector. It does magnetic sound and optical sound, as well as it will record sound on the film while you're watching it. So it's a specialty one that I just literally got for $5 on a pick, and I took a shot. The bulb worked, but it didn't play. I had the belt fixed for like $50. So anyway. Well, thank you, Karen. I do appreciate that.
Ooh,
You talk about 64 G.I. Joe. Huge lots, complete locker with many complete additional sets. What I do on the G.I. Joes, and we've had many G.I. Joes. There's several versions of them, so make sure you know which version you have. The older one are worth more, and the whole body structure is different. I actually got a video on that. I don't know how to tell you verbally. One has a built-in face with non-flocked hair. I would imagine if you have the actual footlockers, that you have the flocked hair version with the standardized, modernized body. Again, there's an early version and then the newer version. If you've got the footlockers, I would say that. When I get them like that with the footlockers, as long as they're wood footlockers, if they're wood footlockers, if they're plastic, you're looking at a totally different value on them. The original wood footlockers, I try to get them as complete as possible. I will put them all together. Literally, if you look at the paper on the inside of the footlocker, and I know you've seen a few of them too, it has a picture of what actually goes in that footlocker on the piece of paper on the lid of the actual footlocker. And I will try to complete that. I think it's gijoe.com maybe. There's actually several websites, and I have them saved on a couple of my favorite places. I don't think it's on this one, but you can go and actually it'll show you a picture of every single item the right color and wise that goes with the actual version that you probably have. I would put them together. Like if you've got the scuba set and it's scattered apart. I always remember the Seinfeld one, what they're playing with them. But if you've got the scuba set or something, put it all together.
Yeah.
The only ones I sell separately are ones that I don't know what set they go to. Or just a single gun that could go to many sets, or like a regular jacket or something. I will sell some of those separately. Another thing to think about on the G.I. Joes, you want them to have the tag on the clothing. If it doesn't have the tag on the clothing, you're not 100% sure it's a G.I. Joe piece. Some of the earlier 61s too, what you want to see on the clothing too, on the zipper is I think it's YKK or YYK. I can't remember which one. I think it's YKK on the actual zippers, which is a maker's name on it. I don't know what it stands for, but it's the same zipper stamp that you will see on like real, zippers for people as well too. So keep them together, put them in sets of what they go with. So like if you got the Foot Locker, as I said, get all the guns that go with it. Even if you don't have a complete set, I would sell it that way. Put the right Joe that goes with it, put him in the right clothing, and sell him that way. That's literally what I do. Some of the clothing wise could be issued in just clothing packets, so those might be worth more than the set. So I would sort out every single thing and look up every piece of clothing you can in those sets. I know if you've got a couple hundred pieces, it may seem like a daunting task, but I always do that. Always. Again, at the end of the day, when you can't put them in a set, then I'd bunch them up, or I'd, do a little research. Like if you've got a helmet from like a German G.I. Joe figure, like a German soldier or something, the helmet might go for 10 or 15 bucks on its own. I don't bulk those up. I don't care if it's long tail items either. So if you've got G.I. Joe from 64, though, they're not going to be long tail items. If they don't sell right away, your price is a little high, or they're damaged or dirty, or something else might be wrong with them. I don't clean any of them, though, either. So again, thanks, Karen. Hopefully that answers the question on that. That's what I do with every G.I. Joe I get in here. I piece them out almost every time.
We've had some really cool. I love scuba.
We've had every almost imaginable. We've had the scuba one before.
That was nice.
With the whole outfit, we've had like even Action Jackson we run into as well too. Then that's another line, but we sell any of that stuff extremely well. G.I. Joe does better than Action Jackson, but anyway.
Yeah, my Barbies are jealous of what G.I. Joe has.
G.I. Joe has everything. I mean, we've had everything. I've had the vehicles, the helicopters, the space capsule. I don't think there's a G.I. Joe piece that I haven't had in my hands. We've even had some of the rare ones, and we've sold some G.I. Joes for, $1,000 or so for a lot before. So the newer ones, even the 3 3/4 inch ones, sell extremely well. I did pass on a bunch of broken pieces the other day, which I usually don't do, but this one was like picked through like 20 different times. It must have been, because there wasn't a single piece in there that wasn't cracked up all over the place. So anyway, let's see what else we got here.
Clear that.
I'm trying. You know how this thing works.
Yeah.
I can't get the chat to come. There we go.
Now to mess up too.
Yeah, now it'll probably mess up. Yeah, chat's terrible on here too. Let's see here. Hello, NASCAR man, 3345. Well, thank you, Rosanna. Anybody? Well, thanks on the thumbnail. I'm going to be changing up a lot of that stuff. I've got like previews for the live show, and hopefully they'll start next week. Literally, we had hauls most of this week, which I didn't really want to do. So I will probably have some new intros and stuff, something to watch, some interesting vintage material and things like that too.
The thrill of the hunt, I know.
Rocky Brook. Yeah, I love the thrill of the hunt. The only problem with the thrill of the hunt sometimes is
you got to beat people up.
Well, we avoid those. We don't go to the first day of anything anymore these days, and I don't really even go to most sales. We are lucky in that people call us now. I'd rather have just somebody call me and not have to worry about sourcing like most people do, because I hate being on the road. We went out sourcing. It was the other side of town. Just the last video that I showed, we got stuck in traffic for over an hour. And it's only a 15-minute drive, so 45 extra minutes in traffic. And the traffic was backed up from another road we weren't even going to be on. It was so far backed up that it was 5 miles into a secondary highway. The traffic jam was on an accident on South 75 in Toledo area. And it actually backed all the way up and jam-packed 475 and the split off. I know there's a few people here from Ohio. That's the only reason I'm bringing that up. Your videos are priceless. Well, thank you, Marikex7. Yeah, I don't understand why someone would complain about a haul item. If they're not into it, fine, don't watch the video. I don't get it. You know, if I watch a video and I'm interested in the video, and they're selling something that I don't know about, I'm going to look into it, you know, especially if I see somebody making good money. We've sold records for over $4,000 for one single dollar or less investment. You know, this past Christmas, we sold one for $2,700.
And you're crossing your fingers that nothing
happens to it because they go to England. You know, you
or
send
Japan.
them or Japan. Yeah, most of the 1,000+ records go to England or say France or Germany. I cut off most of the ones going to Belgium just because I've had too many issues with their postal service there. And I was almost thinking about taking off that country from my eBay's global shipping program too, but I haven't done it yet. Yeah, I was gonna say him Amazon seller 99. If you don't like him, don't watch. I don't get that. But there's people who just watch my video and then they'll leave a thumbs down every single time. I could call out some names, but you know I'm not gonna do that. People tell me when I get bad mouthed on other sites, and you don't have to do that. So if you're thinking about that, don't do it because I don't really care what anybody else says. You know, that doesn't bother me at all. In fact, I don't really want to know who's saying it because I don't really, it's not part of what I do, and I don't really dwell on that too much. First time it happened, I did go look, and then I'm like, what am I wasting my time on this for? And it turned out it was just somebody we kicked off for insulting people in my feed, and then he was making false statements, and it wasn't even worth me getting into. I just had to let it go and move on because it just wasn't, worth my time in any way, shape, or form.
Right here.
Let's see here. I think people are saying private areas aren't allowed to be filmed unless owner gives permission.
Yeah, they'll stick their dogs on you.
If there's no sign, almost everybody pulls out their phone in a store. Almost every single place
Except
I've ever been to.
I got a rotary
she
file.
doesn't. Yeah,
Phone file.
I'm not a phone person. I only use it for business. So she doesn't even have one. She doesn't even care. So it's not like we can't go out and get her when the kids have them both.
I like my big hoss.
She's got a lot of rotary phones. Yep. If there's no sign that says you can't photograph or anything, it's fair game. Just like if there's no trespassing sign, I can walk in anybody's property if there's no trespassing sign. That's a fact. I metal detect, so I do look into the laws on this. If it doesn't say no trespassing, what can happen is if you weren't supposed to be out there, is the police would be called and you would be given a warning that says, hey, you can't come out here. And it's no trespassing. That's all what would happen. Just same thing with photos. All they can technically do is tell you that they don't allow photos in here. So,
what's this?
Somebody's trying to be a jerk. Yeah. In fact, let's just get rid of that person there. There she be. Yeah, we get some nut jobs on here, so anyway.
Well, right, you almost forgot this one.
Okay, I just picked up leftovers garage sale stuff for free. It's like Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we've done that in the past, but in most of the time, I just don't mess with stuff like that just because of space. We've moved to RA items I can ship off immediately through FBA or wholesale that I don't even have to touch or that I can have shipped in a pallet and then I can just box it up and ship it right back out the same day. Or for most of the other stuff, nowadays it's mostly paper. We've totally dumped off literally almost all of our clothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got about 100 more pieces that were never listed that I don't know what I'm going to do with yet. I may just sell it in one big box to somebody and do a little video, and if somebody wants it, I might sell it that way. I don't know yet. I don't really feel like listing it, but it's good stuff because I was really selective in the last grouping that we got, just because clothing did die and I didn't want to have any clothing related issues. So,
right here.
Yeah, that's good having 200 from that kind of item. Neutron bomb. Yeah, I don't care what they say anymore. Neutron bomb. It doesn't really matter. When I first started, it bothered me somewhat, but nowadays I don't really care. Obviously I always hope to get, thumbs up on everything, but it's always 3, almost religiously, and I'm sure it's similar people that have already thumbed down, but they watch it, which, I'm not, if I don't like something, I'm not going to go watch it just to leave a negative. It's a waste of my time.
They're probably the same people who go to a restaurant, eat everything,
and then ask for their money back. Yeah, I see those too.
This food wasn't that good. Then why did you eat
the whole thing? Yeah. As a restaurant manager and a restaurant regional manager, I saw that daily.
Yeah.
And I do mean daily. It's crazy. Again, I don't understand. It's jealousy, or I kicked them off the channel and blocked their comments, so they're just going to have to come to every single video. If you look at a lot of my videos in a row, it's 3 thumbs down. It's the same 3 people.
Could be your old girlfriends from high school.
No, there's only 1 or 2 of
Still
those
harboring
live.
ill feelings towards you.
3 of the people I dated are dead, so I don't.
And why did they die, Don?
One was a car accident, as you know.
I'm kidding.
Yeah. Let's see here.
Right here.
I found all my niches by I just said that. Yeah, thanks, Amazon
niches.
seller. Niches,
or niches.
however you want to. I've heard it 3 different ways. Sell everything you can, and you will stumble on a niche. That's exactly what we did. We never had an intent to have 500,000 pieces of paper in our building,
Nope.
And that's probably, I one shelf. There's 2 shelves behind me that have like 250,000 pieces of paper.
Yeah.
And then I tried to sit here and think about, how much do I really have? And then I started looking at all the boxes that are just full of sorted material. Like I've got boxes, 14-inch cube boxes that are full from top to bottom, 50 pounds or more of brochures that I've picked out all the ones that will sell, and that's all that's in the box. We've either dumped off or just dumped off big lots at other local auctions and sold the ones without value for the most part. And then the rest just sit here. Again, most everything we've sold wasn't by choice. I would rather sell, artwork or toys or something like that. Now we do that as well too, but you can't just look for one item. It's just not going to work. I'm telling you. Yeah, if you haven't hit the like button, go ahead and hit that like button. We got 122 people on right now and only 49 likes.
Come on, man.
Give us some love there. And again, I did touch on Moonlighting Warrior, regretting it. Again, I don't just buy records because they're cheap. If I'm not going to make good money, I won't buy them. If there's 5,000 records and I have to look through 3,000 of those records to know if it's worth buying, that's what I do. I almost never buy something if it's just dirt cheap, just for a chance. Let's see here. Hang on, I got that one here. Yeah, your niches will find you. Hey, Tara, how are you doing?
You're going to have to...
Yeah, I'm going to have to move the feed, so if we can't answer any for a second, it's...
Sweating bullets.
The feed disappeared on us. Glad to have you, Tara.
Like the indoor flea market thing.
Yeah, I do go to the indoor flea markets as well, too, but not very much these days. I'm actually going to probably go out this weekend to a couple flea markets, only because I've got people that have been telling me I need to check this place out. The haul we did the other day, I had 2 people tell me the same thing. I better get over there. And sure enough, I got over there, and there was records just falling out of the shelves and stuff. And I only looked at a very small portion of them. I hit all the 78s, of course, because that's really where the money was from what I saw there. Again, I spent $33.47 literally to the T on what I got in that video, and I didn't even show you all the stuff in the video. So, the reel-to-reels alone are going to get me at least $600. No question about it. No ifs, ands, or buts. And if you don't know what reel-to-reels are, you need to look those up. Pre-recorded ones are best, and I know there was a question on them. The question was, why wouldn't unrecorded ones be worth more? Well, it's just like a record. A blank record's worth nothing, but a recorded, like a Jimi Hendrix first pressing, is worth a lot of money, depending on what it is, of course. All along the Watchtower, something's going to sell for a lot of money. Unrecorded ones will go for decent money if you get the right ones, but the pre-recorded ones are the ones you want almost exclusively. Like a Jimi Hendrix reel-to-reel, if the record sells for $100, the reel-to-reel is probably going to sell for $200. Most of the reel-to-reels go for more than the actual record, in my opinion, on those type, just because they're so much rarer. A blank, unused, unrecorded media does sell, though, but again, you have to have top quality. Like the cheapo ones aren't going to sell. You've got to have top quality, unrecorded, sealed NOS to get your money out of them. And we've sold, reel-to-reels. We've had some big ones. I've had the 14 inchers even, new sealed in the pack, and I'm talking top brand studio versions of it. And we've gotten $200 and $300 for an unrecorded NOS reel-to-reel, the right version and the right brand. I mean, there's like massive size ones too that we've had, but you want the ones that are pre-recorded. Those are what you want. Hang on just a second. Filming from a public space into a private space is illegal. If the private space is opened, if you're standing on a street and there is a window opened to the street, you're allowed to film all you want. That's a fact. I can tell you for sure. I worked at Disney, and so did the wife for 10 years. We constantly dealt with video productions and stuff and filming and all that, as well as, I do YouTube. So I have looked into these. And there's other stuff I do. I do artwork and other things too. So if you are sitting on a public street and filming anything on that street, it's open game. If they've got the window opened, you can shoot the camera in the window direction without any complaints or worries. I can tell you that for sure, because they're not violating anybody's space. They're standing in a public access space.
Just don't record your neighbors through a kitchen window or bedroom window.
Well, all that would happen is the police would tell you to get out, and don't do it again.
Shot.
You'd get a warning possibly. And I don't even know if they could give you a warning, because if their window is opened, if their window is physically opened or the curtain's opened, I can shoot from my property all I want. That's a fact. You can look it up. Our friends, the third in command for the entire sheriff's department here, we've talked about all of this stuff in the past when he's asked questions about, videos and stuff like that.
How about the people in New York City? They have the telescopes.
Telescopes, yeah.
Looking around.
Peeping Toms. Again, as long as you're not violating anybody's personal property, stepping on their property, I can film in a public space anywhere I want. So, you can film into someone's space as long as you're not stepping on their property. There is nothing against the law about that at all. So, and technically there's nothing against the law about me walking into private or into a store and filming. They have to tell me that I can't do that, again, because there's no signs that say no camera use at all. There's just no signs that say that. It's just like I can walk into an establishment and they can, tell me I can't be there, but they've got to warn me. They can't just say and have me arrested. The police won't do that. That's not how it works. Know the laws. It is a metal detectorist. Even as I said, private property, you can step on private property if it doesn't say no trespassing. And all that's going to happen to you is they can tell you you're going to have to leave. This is your warning. That's what they're going to tell you. I had to do that all the time in a restaurant. When somebody, robbed us or caused a scene or was drunk, we told them that from this point on, they're trespassing. You would call an officer into your establishment. The officer would quote them some statement that says, hey, this is your official warning. If you're seen back in this establishment from this point on, you will be legally trespassing in the establishment because you've been officially warned. That's how it works. So
get off the soapbox.
No, it's not a soapbox. That's just the law. That's how it works. I do know enough on how it works to say that without a doubt.
Our son's going out with his friends.
I'm sure. Youngest son?
Mm-hmm.
I figured. I'll miss next week's show. I'm finally taking days off. I'll be going to the beach.
Ooh.
Well, you have fun with that. Yeah,
yes.
We did. I mean, us sourcing was a day off, in all honesty, because I wasn't here in working. There was people here working. I had my oldest was here working and stuff too. So I mean, there was people here working when we're off.
The last time we took off and went to the coastal beach of Ohio, and got hit with all the dead fish, and then got sick from the algae blooms. That was fun.
Algae blooms from them dumping farm industrial waste into the lake.
Out there in my noodle chair and. Dead fish.
As well as global warming does take a toll on it, and I know people are going to say that's fake news, but it's not fake news at all. I mean, any scientist, 99.9% of every scientist in this country or any other country agrees that it's not fake news. I will argue that point until I'm blue in the face. I've seen the actual, reports. One of our professors used to be on the denier side, and he isn't anymore, and, he explained why, and he pulled out the facts, and I had to cover that in biology, and I think she covered part of that too. But anyway, we're not going to go there. I only bring that up because we didn't have drinking water for a week because of these issues.
We couldn't even wash our dishes.
You couldn't even take a shower or anything. Everything was bottled. They shipped in bottled water because we get our water from Lake Erie, and then they still dump. And the current administration is removing the ruling that allows them to dump even more into our water. So
we need more,
we need more pollution. And anybody who's saying that the EPA is sitting here destroying things, all they have to do is look at Flint water or the water here in our own city. You know,
the aerial views.
The aerial views of the algae, and it's all directly related to harmful stuff put in the air
agricultural runoff.
which was originally banned. And I'm not getting into administrations or not, but the current administration has torn apart the EPA and put someone in charge who actually is against the EPA. So I fully want this planet to survive, and I know people are going to call me fake on this, but it's just the way it is.
Right here.
Records are, if you know your records, they're not hard, I would say. You need to know how to grade them correctly. Yeah. I know how to grade records, and I still undergrade by half a grade or even sometimes a hair more, just because I never want to sit here and argue with somebody. I don't get complaints on my grading. And again, as I said, I do undergrade a little bit. I'd rather give up a few bucks and just not have to worry about it. That's the key to it. Once you've got the picture on grading, you should be fine. Just never... The biggest problem I see people getting into trouble with records is they just assume it's a better grade than it is because they can get more money out of it. The higher the grade, the more money you get. And when we first started, I made a big mistake. I sent out a 78 like an LP, and it was broken 2 minutes after it left the door, probably. Before I realized the first record I sent, 78, was broken.
And here's your broken record.
That was 20 plus years ago, you know. So you learn all this stuff in it. Records aren't a pain. To me, I can mail them or do anything with a record in my sleep, and I do mean in my sleep these days. I love records. I love listening to them.
Yeah, you do.
And it makes us a lot of money. In the store that I share with you, and I don't maybe show a lot of the records that we sell, but my top category are trade cards. My second top category is records. Postcards are down like in the 4th or 5th spot. Toys are like 3rd, I think. I
love toys.
Of course, yeah, we love toys. So, you know, records make us an insane amount of money. In 1 month, we've made maybe close to 20 grand in just record sales. And that would have been in December. That was the most I think we've done in records. We did sell one single record for almost 3 grand though. So, you know, when you look at it that way, knowing your records can make you a ton of money. So just be careful, grade correctly. If you're not sure, grade a little under, and you're always going to be safe that way. You know, that's just my take on it.
Right here.
I had a little girl tell me, if you ain't got no haters, you ain't popping. Well, that's a good point, I guess. Hey, J.I., how you doing? This basically means successful people always have haters. Yeah, I don't really care. I'm sure I just got another thumbs down because I was talking about the climate and EPA, but that's the breaks, I guess, you can get. We're directly affected by it, so, you know.
Oh, that's funny.
There you go, Rob. That's a good one. How you doing, Rob? Mr. Mom, how you doing? Paul, welcome. Karen, good evening to you back. And Carl saying glad you could join. My Great Find, same thing to Marky. Steve, welcome. Armin Crypto, welcome. Yeah, grandmas do know best for the most part.
My squirrels. They're fine, Duncan. They're living up on the balcony because of all the wetness.
Yeah, I spent a day or so a couple weeks ago, and I built a canopy from scratch for it, and I just lost it. Yeah, I've just lost our feed.
There you go. That's what.
Well, thank you for the super chat, Max Profit. I greatly appreciate that. Again, not necessarily, but, you know, we always appreciate it. It does help fund the channel. We do invest a lot of time into it. That video I just put up last night, that took a lot of time to edit, because it's when you record like that, you've got like the entire footage from the entire time you're in the store, and it takes a long time. Let's just say for 20 minutes or 30 minutes worth of footage, it takes a couple hours if you really want to do it right, and then add the text and all that stuff in. So I don't do the movement videos because I do get motion sickness incredibly easily these days.
I can't deal with that.
Ever since... Well, thank you, Pat Dees. I greatly appreciate that. For some reason, none of the super chats are showing up on the feed.
Peach soda. Oh, thank you.
Glad to have you here, Pat. Pat's got a real good channel, too. If you haven't checked out Pat... you know, check out Pat's channel. If you don't know how to get to Pat's channel or anybody's channel in the feed, if you go to the little 3 red dots next to them, you can actually hit and it'll take you to their actual page. Pat's a good guy. I've listened and chatted around with him too, so hang on. I probably missed a whole bunch up here. Yeah, why is it showing up? Red Neckerson Resellers. Thank you, too, for the super chat. Again, for some reason, I don't have any super chat notices going on right now at all. Not on the top, not on the bottom. Again, thanks for the super chat. I greatly appreciate that. Now if I can find another super chat. Well, thanks again for the other super chat there. Why is it not showing super chat?
What did you do wrong?
Hang on, let me try reloading this because I've never had it not show those. Hang on, give me just a second here while this reloads so we can...
Are you feeling lucky, punk?
Yeah, here we go. I think we're okay now. Let me pop down here. I know, as always, as I've said, we're behind. We're always down on the questions. I try to answer every one. I don't hop around. I don't skip. We're answering them straight on down. Good, bad, or indifferent questions. I try to get to them all.
Talking about the hairdo, or hair don't.
Let me pop past all those.
Ooh, a lazy daisy wig and hair dryer.
Servicious, Sircivus. I'm not sure if that's pronounced right, but I do apologize. I'm sure I butchered it.
Yeah,
do you look up any of the records, or do you know what to look for from your experience? I did not look up a single record that I bought in that whole sourcing trip. They were all name-wise decent names. On stuff like that, I got a total. Let's see, like one stop, I got 38 records. I spent $5. If I threw in a couple records, I would have probably still got them for the exact same $5. I was expecting to pay $1 a piece for those records, so I was looking at $38. I knew right off the bat I had Glenn Miller, Chattanooga Choo Choo, and I Got a Gal in Kalamazoo. Together, those two records were worth $40. So right off the bat, I knew I had money there. Like Fred Hamp or something like that. I know what his records go for. The label helps me ID them as well, too, in the type of music. Foxtrot or jazz, that's what you want to look for. Certain labels, like Columbia D label, is a 78 label, and it has a D after the number. Most every one of those is good. It's just facts like that. Sometimes the song will give it away. Like, I've talked about it here, and if Audrey's on tonight, she brought up Charleston. Charleston 78 almost always goes for some good money, and she actually found a Coral version. And Coral is a record label that Buddy Holly was actually on. It's a U.S. label, but she happens to have a pressing from Canada. And a disc like that would be a reissue of it, because Coral was not around when the Charleston first came out. The Charleston was an early song from the 20s. One of the most famous versions of that record is by a person named Paul Whiteman. And his version of the Charleston, I usually get 40 to say $60 on it. On a 78, on a it's a Victor back, or is it the Batwing on that one? Yeah, I think it is. No, it's actually the Scroll Victor label. And I discussed that in some of them. There's a Scroll on the label. It's a 78 label. Anyone that his shows up on is worth some money, and she had the question on that one because it's a Canadian one and on a different label. Canada 78s will sell, too, just because there's not as many of them around. And they just don't show up. So stuff like that, even on a reissue on something like that, will sell. So for Audrey, I did answer that in Patreon as well. Plus, there you go, just to help you out there.
When you said the Charleston, all I can think of is the Brady Bunch.
Oh, when they're doing the Charleston in there, yeah, the corny Brady Bunch.
Good old 70s.
Now, in the video, too, I show a Brady Bunch board game. Now, if that Brady Bunch board game had the pieces and it wasn't damaged, it's a $100 game I could have had for $5, but it was trashed out, so anyway.
Not even Marsha was in there.
Yeah, Marsha was missing.
But Jan, the only one was Jan.
Jan, yeah. And again, as I said, I don't look up most of those type of 78s. 45s I will look up occasionally. If they're dirt cheap like I paid for them, I will take the shot. Because 99% of the time, they're good. It was actually 39 records. There was one that I couldn't sell out of there that I wasn't going to put a price on. It was actually from sitting in my car because it was an acetate and the surface heated up too much on the metal and the top surface flakes off after that. So I ruined it by not putting it under the seat. That was my fault, but I'm not going to hold that against anything. Yeah, no green hair for us. Yeah, we're not into the coloring hair. One of the girls, well, there's a specific person that usually cuts our hair, and she's had the funky hairdo, and, to each his own. She does an awesome job cutting the hair.
I've had some horrible hairdos. In the 80s, I had a rat tail, if any of you guys remember.
Yeah, I remember the rat tail.
I had a short, spiky Olivia Newton-John, and then a rat tail. It was awful.
I knew somebody in school that had that, too. I don't remember her name, even at this point.
I got rid of all evidence of that rat tail.
Let me see here. Sorry if I've missed anything, but I'm curious if your Triblet has gotten any traction. We've sold quite a few on them. I with the toy site and all, we're remarketing some other things. I've got some other toy lines that are done that I'm just not going to push out till later on and around Christmas time, actually. Trilobites, I think I've got like 5 left out of the initial run we did at this point here. So it's been a good moneymaker. We've made a couple $1,000 profit above and beyond all my labor, all my expenses. So I can't complain on something like that.
And now it's going to be the long-haired pet rock.
No. We've talked about stuff like that too. Believe it or not, it would probably sell.
You can comb it.
Yeah, Trilobite. And honestly, I got a secondary notice from a museum in here, so I'm still waiting on museum answer on the Trilobite as well too. I am going to give away for Halloween though one of the killer clowns, just FYI, because I've got one here it's not perfect. There's a little spot on the bottom, but I painted it all up. That's going to be giving away 100%, no ifs, ands, or buts. I don't have any deals on it, so it's going to be given away for Halloween to somebody, but.
Right here? Is that... Yeah.
Rocky, nothing wrong with garage sale leftovers for free at all. Nothing at all.
Right.
I mean, worst case scenario, maybe they're not worth selling online. You could always sell them in lots at local live auctions as well, too. Flea markets. I know people who pick that stuff up and just do flea markets with it.
Oh, good evening from North Texas.
Welcome, Jason.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay, Carl. We had you wondering there for a minute.
I know. For a minute there, what did I miss, Don?
Yeah, I was just talking to Dom and Chris, actually, just before the show. We were going back and forth for 20 or 30 minutes, but those are good guys. Again, you guys know that I don't associate with everybody. I'm going to have a special guest on next Tuesday as well. It's already been confirmed. It's going to give you another area to look for. It's something totally different than what I do, and I think it'll be a big help to many people. I know people talk about, well, you only talk about this and you don't talk about that. I talk about what I know and what I do. I'm not going to talk about doing something else that I don't do. It's going to be a surprise. The night before, I'm going to do a bunch of big push-outs. A lot of you may recognize who's going to be on. He's fairly upper channel. I'll just leave it as a surprise. I'll announce it on Monday night. But Tuesday, there will be a special live show with somebody special. We've got a real special guest coming on.
Elvis.
So if I could get Elvis on, I probably would. Well, thanks, Dan, as well. Neutron Bomb. What do you think of opinion of videos with listings on eBay? I don't do those. I'm not... there's nothing wrong with it at all. Nothing at all. I mean, I know Dom does some promotions on his Facebook, and I know I'm terrible on getting on Facebook. My days are just... Yeah. From the minute I get up to the minute I get go to bed, it's pretty hectic. So we're working on fixing this. Once the growing pains are done and when Sellbrite and all of our cross listings done, I can worry about other stuff. Right now, my key thing is getting as many items as I can listed by the second week in third quarter. So if you guys aren't doing that and trying to get your stuff ready for the beginning of fourth quarter, you need to learn to fix that right now. You should be changing around. So usually through summer we list like mad because my employees are not in school and I can run, twice the amount of labor through summer. And to do that, you got to list some good stuff and you got to keep the money coming in to actually make enough to pay for labor. And we don't, right now, I could care less how much they work. Anybody right now can work anytime as much as they want as long as we're here or somebody else is here. I do have an employee that does have a key to my house too. So, we've got trusted employees that if we go out of town, my business still runs just like it was if I'm not here. There'll just be a couple less people working because we won't be here. But there's people here that run it while we are gone. I've never shut down our business for a vacation. And
now that you said that...
Well, we don't really have to. We've got 2 or 3 different people that could do it if need be, so... why would a postcard in a small envelope, no stiffener, cost $406? We don't send them in an envelope, so I don't know why somebody would charge you that.
We fold them up and...
Yeah, I don't put anything in an envelope. That's just somebody charging you, overpricing it. When we send a postcard out, it's actually sealed in a plastic sleeve, the little sleeves, and I wished I had one right handy.
But you don't.
I don't have one right here. There's a ton right there. But so they go in a sleeve. You don't have to grab one.
Okay.
I fold them up, and I've got videos literally showing you every step I do to seal a postcard. It's basically sandwiched with 3 pieces of cardboard, 2 on one side and 1 on the other side. That's taped up really stiff like too, and that goes in a 6x9 poly mailer. And we charge what it costs. So $406 would be an official cost. Like if I'm going from here to California, I do believe it's like $4 something for shipping. So they just decided to keep the money. That's the reason why eBay charges you on your shipping costs, because people do exactly that. So Emily, that's exactly why we have to pay for final value fees on shipping, is because people will charge one set price to get more money and then send it a cheap way.
I say we beat them with sticks.
Well, I can't beat them with sticks. We wouldn't know who to beat. The other thing on that too, what other people do is they'll charge... First, they'll charge you for like priority shipping, and then they'll ship something media mail. I see that all the time, and I do send a notice to somebody if I buy something like that. We don't buy many books or anything like that. She bought a
what the hell's a book? No, I'm just
Hunter
kidding.
S. Thompson. I bought her.
Yeah.
And
First edition. Woo.
They charge. Well, that I'm talking about the other one. I think the second one I got you. They charged us for first class, and then they sent it. Or actually, they charged us priority, and then they sent it media, which I thought was a ripoff. That was a con job. I did leave them good or bad feedback for that, because that's not legit. If I say I'm shipping it a certain way, I ship it a certain way. I would email them back and ask for a refund on the difference if that's how they sent it, because they probably just put a regular postage stamp on that. Hey, Debbie Does Sales, how are you doing? Good evening tonight. And again, I'm now back up to Red Neckerson's Resells. Thanks again for the super chat.
Motorbike leather jacket. Ooh.
I would box it up. I would wrap it carefully in seal it airtight. A vintage. I've got 50 leather jackets, including probably 30 or 40 biker jackets. I love vintage leather. Been on many Harleys in my day, so I do like leather. I literally wrap it up and put it in a box. If you're talking a leather jacket, a 14 cube box wraps up almost any biker jacket you can imagine. That's what I use for almost every leather jacket that I get. If it's too tall and I want to shorten it down a little bit just to save a little space for my stack of boxes, I'll just actually shorten the box. I'll just take a knife and run a rim around it. And I show how to shorten boxes and adjust the box size too. But a 14-inch cube is great for biker jackets.
And she was worried about the creasing.
You're not. If it's only going to be in there for shipment, I wouldn't worry about that at all. I would carefully fold it. You can triple fold it. So fold the bottom part up to the center and then fold the top part down. And it's literally a 3-piece. It slides in sideways. So it's kind of hard to explain, but a 14-inch cube box is what I use for almost every biker thick jacket, especially if they're like at the 1/2-inch thick winter size, or if it has the liner in it. A 14-inch cube box is the best. A 12-inch cube I use for the smaller size jackets without the liners.
Oh, wow.
I don't worry about sending them flat usually. You can send them flat. There's a 15 by 12 by 10 box that you can use as well too. 15 will usually give you where you only have to curl up the top of the leather jacket, and that's about it. But I almost always use the 14-inch cube box for leather jackets.
Right here.
Do you feel the new postage rates will cut into your profits? I don't worry about the rates at all. PG on that. Again, I charge shipping for everything. We don't pay shipping on anything.
Yeah.
Not only do I not pay for shipping on anything, I don't pay for the boxes. I don't pay for the tape. I don't pay for anything in shipping. We charge the full cost. Whatever it would cost you to ship something from the post office is what I charge. Now, eBay gives us the discount. I keep the discount to cover my fees that I pay, my final value fees on the shipping, my boxes, and everything else. It's just a wash. I don't make any profits on it, but I don't pay anything either. I'm very, very careful on that. It's not wrong. It's not against any eBay's policy to do that. As long as you quote what your price will be and you don't charge them more than the quote, you aren't doing anything wrong. The total that they get is a total for shipment. That includes handling fees or anything else. And again, I have added a 25-cent handling fee to my other store because we are on the new payment process system. So I don't have to pay the extra quarter either. And I did a video on that too. So if you want to know, go back and watch the video on that.
Carl addressed that.
Yeah, and on that same aspect, everything's calculated shipping. And everything I have is business policies. So if I need to change anything, the only reason I change something is if I want to change it. If the rates change, I don't have to do a single solitary thing ever. It's calculated shipping. Again, I don't worry about any of that stuff at all. And I know a lot of people say, even if we give it away free, we still are calculated into our shipment. Well, that's not exactly correct, because the only way to correctly calculate it into your shipment is to do it after the sale, and no one does that. They'll just put in a price, and what they basically figure the price on when you do free shipping is the most expensive shipping process you can imagine is what they put on there. So if they're on the East Coast, they're going to give a rate for anybody in the country to go to the West Coast. And I just wouldn't do that. And again, I know not everybody does it that way, but if you're shipping to someone close by and you're charging them the same one flat rate for shipping because it's free, you're messing up, because you're overcharging people locally, I guess is the point. So I would rather charge them, or charge them that way.
This is really interesting right here.
Yeah, I've got a Buddy Rich sitting here. In fact, Archer, the cartoon series Archer, talks about Buddy Rich. Isn't that the one that supposedly was Archer's dad at one point? I think
so,
Buddy
yeah.
Rich.
One of the possibilities.
Many. Yeah, jazz records we do very well. And a nice Blue Note LP with the original address on it, you could get a couple grand for it, easy. The one thing of Blue Notes that you don't want to mess much with would be like 78 singles and stuff. They don't go for very much money. Some of them do, $30, $40, but that's just the way you take it. Yeah, I would look into his record collection. Buddy Rich in general is an excellent musician, but most of his records don't go for a ton of money. There are some, of course, though. And I'm not trying to do a dog or anything like that on Buddy Rich at all, because we've got Buddy Rich here as well, and there's music by him on our MP3 player, so it's not something that I avoid at all. Excellent musician. Been to Baltimore many times myself. I got about 145s, and they are rare or on labels I'm not familiar with. Lana's a very common label. In fact, Lana is a label that did repressings and reissues. So watch out on Lana. Lana is a newer label, many of them.
Here's the boy.
Hob is a common label. Quiet Times, I don't know. Maybe that's not the technical label name. Look like $5 for all. Just worth a chance. If you don't mind spending, a few bucks on a chance, nothing wrong with that. Hob is a common label. As I said, Lana is. Again, Lana, most of the Lanas that we run into are reissues or repressings on their label. It may be the first time they had that specific title or musician on the label, but it's like a repress of it. Doesn't mean there's not going to be some value in some of those, but Hob has some good ones on there. I'm trying to think of a good one on Hob. Blankinson or something like that, or Sci Hightower, Nightingales, something like that maybe. There are a lot of good gospel records, but what you really want are northern, like soul gospel, if you want them, if you're going after like a Hob label. And Oregon Coast, welcome from the Oregon Coast.
I had to kiss that dog. Now I got dog
ears.
Dog
here, I feel it. Welcome, Penny. How you doing too? Well, thank you, Steve Elmer. Really greatly appreciate that. Do Polka records sell, Rob? Yes, they do. Yankovic. What's his first name? Not Weird Al, of course. And they're not related, just FYI.
Man, I always forget that.
Frankie Yankovic. He's got some records. It depends if it's like a Jolly label. The label is key on some of the polka records. Continental has some $100 polka records. Jolly are some of the best polka records you can imagine. Jolly is the title. It's a 78. There are some 45s, very few that are worth some money, like on some of the Dana label ones, which is a local label here actually, because there's a huge Polish community here. In fact, my grandmother was born in Poland, so just FYI, I know Polish stuff fairly well. 78s we sell the most of for polkas. There are some Frankie Yankovic LPs that will go for some decent money, but it just depends on the actual disc and the label as well. I don't turn down polka records at all, and usually I can get them even cheaper than most other records. Usually they're priced in the range of foreign pressing or foreign language records, and which do sell as well too. Polka records, there's less, well, I shouldn't say less. You find less polka records, so I would say probably the percentage of good polka records versus the bad ones is about the same as any other category, in all honesty. I literally have in that haul video there's 3 polka records I show in there that I expect to get $75 for, so 25 a piece, but they're from the same set, so I didn't put them separately. We still got well over 100. If anybody hasn't hit that like button, go ahead and pop that like button here for us if you would. Give us some love. Thanks, Carl. Again, I forget to say stuff like that.
Show the doggy some love. Hit some likes for my baby boy.
What are we using for live? I use Streamlabs OBS, and today I'm just using OBS because I was doing something else with another channel using Virtual Cam, OBS Virtual Cam. I know pretty much OBS and Streamlabs, I mean, like the back of my hand. I think I know every single feature or function you can do on that. We've used it now for well over a year. It's the bomb, too, from what I see.
I gotta take him outside.
Okay. Kids are gone, so she's going to step out for a minute. I'm going to slide over. She may or may not be back. She's got something she has to do. Somebody else is stopping by in just a little while here. Hey, Aaron, how you doing? Welcome, Aaron. Aaron's a pretty darn good guy as well, too. I've chatted with him as well on here. Don, how do you test the reel-to-reels? I have a reel-to-reel player, just FYI. And it's an expensive one. It was one I got broken, and I did fix that one myself. There's belts in most of those. It depends on if it's like a direct drive or something like a record player. Most of that stuff I personally will take apart myself and try to fix. Now, the 8mm projector I have, it's a Japanese one. It's got recording equipment built into it and all this other stuff. I didn't even want to take a chance. I spent $100 to have it fixed at a local shop. And it was just something simple. And I knew it was because I could see pieces of the belt inside of it. So I don't test most of the reel-to-reels, even with having a player. Usually you can tell by looking at them. Now, the ones that I got in the video, the ones I just showed you, somebody had just looked at them. They look like they're clean. Somebody's added new headers on them. Literally, they put them on all new reels. They put the little clips to hold the film, the tape in. These are well taken care of ones. Some of the ones in that lot I got are actually studio recordings from a master as well. So I would say that this grouping that I got belonged to like a radio station. So I'm gonna go by my gut instinct and not even have to test those. I've never had a reel-to-reel returned ever in my life, just FYI. Even if there's even some minor issue with them, you can splice them back together just like a piece of movie film or something like that. So there's not much that can go wrong with them unless, let's say, somebody's like thrown a giant magnet on top of them or something else like that. But other than that, there's not much that can go wrong with them. Well, glad to have you, Melissa. Glad you could be here. Again, they replay, so if you can't make the live show, I completely understand. I don't even know what time it is now. I've been chatting here and... Oh, okay. I still got plenty of time. Let's see here. You and your spiders, Duncan. I'm not going to show you, but one of these days maybe I will on Patreon or something else. But I've got a massive scar from where the brown recluse actually ate away my skin and flesh and the whole works. It became necrotic where it bit me. And I was bedridden for 2 months, literally. I couldn't even wear pants or anything, and many trips to the hospital, intravenous antibiotics. I was on double-strength antibiotics, 2 different ones at the same time, and it was really serious. I couldn't eat. I had, poison, going through my system, and constant trips to the emergency room or my doctor, and lots of shots and stuff. So I'm not a big fan of spiders anymore these days. So, and it's just a tiny little thing, too. But anyway, I'm not going to get into too much of that. Maybe one day I'll show you the scar. It's pretty nasty still to this day, and that's years ago. Yeah, I lived in Florida, Carl, as you know. I don't miss Florida anymore. The traffic and the heat and the humidity and all the other stuff that goes with it. The crowd. I'm not a big person in big crowds anymore. I worked at Disney for a long time. I just like quiet and mild-mannered routine. Again, I'm online. I don't have a bunch of people in front of me right here, so it's not the same thing chatting on here. And if it was business-related, I don't mind discussing. I could talk in front of a whole bunch of people if I'm talking about what I love, like business or something, but... Red Neckerson, sometimes I have issues with everyday life. That's everybody, I have to say. Life goes on. For those who don't know, I do have my youngest son has a heart-related issue that's, at this point, doesn't look like it's going to go away anytime soon. He's actually probably going to have some a heart procedure done the way it's looking now. So, life goes on. There's not much you can do about it. My father died when I was 17 and pretty much turned my life upside down. So, everything happens, to anybody. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason to anything, It's what we do with it and moving on with it. I try not to dwell on anything like that anymore. Callie, how are you doing? Yeah, life does go on. That's the thing I can say. Let me see here. Let's see here. Hang on just a second. My chat just disappeared. Lady Luck Junk, welcome. Glad to have you here. Hey, Sue. It's in the mail, Sue. Just FYI. I threw something extra in there for you, too. Something for you and your son. Let's see here. Meredethy. You look great in that color. Well, thank you. Sue's got a good channel, too, if you haven't checked it out. In fact, Sue helped out with one of my videos, which you can see. It's 10 answers by 10 sellers, I think it says. Sue's a real nice person. Got a real nice channel as well, too. Unfortunately, I don't know many of the other half that does reselling other than my wife and Sue. There's a few others that I've almost barely chatted with. I know about a few others from some other channels, but I've reached out to a few to do some videos with me, and Sue was the first and only female to say yes on it. I don't know why I couldn't even get a response from some people. Maybe I'm scary to some people. I don't know what it is, but Sue's a really nice person. Callie, I sold an item to Hong Kong today. It is a Coke glass. Huh, interesting. You should do very nicely on an item being sent through the mail to Hong Kong. I've never had an issue with Hong Kong shipments. China, mainland, different story, but Hong Kong itself, never. Most every one of my Hong Kong, in fact, the postcards all went to Hong Kong. And they went through the global shipping program, too, so they spent like $16 to ship them. I have never been to Hong Kong. I would not get on the plane to do it, and I would not want to be on a plane that long anymore. I'm not afraid to fly. I just don't like sitting in for that length of time. But yes, I would love to go. Maybe if there was a transcontinental cruise ship, I might consider it. But, it is on my list of places to go. Let's see here. I'm hopping down, try to catch up to some more. Well, glad to have you, Max Profit, on a live show here. Rocky Brook. Yeah, phone got hot from looking up comps. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, how's the lid? Put them together, Karen. Again, I'm going back to the G.I. Joes there. Again, for those who think I'm off track on here, I go through the feed and we try to answer every question. I try to give a full, complete answer. BitMEX trades, I'm not sure best site for what. If you're talking about G.I. Joe, I would list those all on eBay. And welcome back, as I said, Pat. How did I get so smart? I was just doing this for 20 plus years. We've done eBay since eBay was eBay. Obviously, I was a novice, just like every single other person out there. I have nothing special going for me, other than I don't give up. I'm not gonna, buy something if I don't know it's worth money. I look up everything, After you've looked up the same item after you've looked up, let's say, a YKK zippers. Yeah, I knew it was something like that. After you've looked up the same Glenn Miller record 10 times, you're not going to look it up again. After you looked up the same action figure or something like that, you're not going to have to look it up again. Or let's say I walk up on some Star Wars figures and they're a quarter a piece than the original ones. I don't have to look up anything. A quarter a piece for any Star Wars figure is a good deal. It just depends on what you're looking for and what you find. So, to check 78s. Yeah, I got you there. Yeah, 78s. I use 3 different sites. I use sometimes more than that. There are sites besides eBay, Discogs, to look up records. I wished it was easier to look up 78s on Amazon, but unfortunately it's not. Rule of thumb on me, so if I sell a record, or I put a record on Amazon or on eBay for $50, it's going to be $60 on Amazon, because I usually get more for them. Sometimes it's $70 or $80, the same record on Amazon, and we sell them for that higher price on Amazon, even though the same item's on eBay at the exact same time for less money. No rhyme or reason. Amazon, that just proves that Amazon has a bigger clientele for almost anything other than some of the paper items. But again, we sell paper and everything else on there. And thank you, Annie, on that. I meant to say thanks. Annie knows a lot about a lot of stuff, and she's great in looking stuff up as well, too. Again, I tell everybody this. If you don't look up something and you get it and realize it's not worth anything, it's your own fault. Look up every single thing you get if you don't know what it's worth. Let's see here. I pulled a 1970 Talking G.I. Joe with box from a recent storage. That's a pretty darn good find there, Hopsman. How are you doing tonight? That would have been something I would have loved to have found. Yeah, we don't want any of the conversation here on anything like that. So Brown Bushman, no offense, but you know, I don't mind what somebody does or something, but just please keep it away from the channel. YouTube will penalize people that do that. Hang on, let me pop down. Yeah, Karen has a scuba set. Sell them in sets. Sell all the scuba stuff together. That's what I would personally do. Yeah, and then Meredethy, thank you. Like it's a Japanese zipper maker, Behemoth, making more than half the zippers on Earth. Are you sure it's a Japanese company? Because, you know, literally during World War II, the best zippers to look for are YKK on U.S. bomber jackets. And I know that even the bomber jackets made in 42, 43 are YKK then. So I don't... You may be 100% right, but that just seems weird unless they had that much backstock. Because literally, the best zipper you want on a military piece of clothing is the YKK, in my personal opinion. Even on the leather jackets, like the deck jackets and things like that. Yeah, there is a G.I. Joe with hard plastic head, too. Yeah, I don't want to dog Red Nickerson Resales. I don't want to dog on other channels, but I constantly see other well, I don't watch them. I see the titles and stuff about, you know, all kinds of cool items, and then it's just a video of a bunch of clothing. Anybody can look up clothing. And again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with clothing, because we did clothing full-time too. So, but it takes a lot more to learn collectibles. I know my collectibles, and I only talk about what I know. So you don't see me doing videos on sports items or anything like that, or even clothing. You know, I look up clothing when we were doing it, and we were fairly good on clothing. I don't know what sells nowadays, again, because I don't know the brands in the last few years. We literally dropped off clothing totally. I only talk about what I know, and I do try to know my areas because that's where I make money. If you don't know your areas, you're not going to make money. Knowing as much as you can about as much as you can is key to making this work, you know, and anybody can figure out what to look for once you've done it long enough, so... It's nothing more than time. Anybody who's done this as long as I have. You know, a lot of people are just into this, just starting, and think, you know, I know so much information. There's so many other people that know all this kind of information that have done it just as long. I've done this for 20 plus years. We've been full-time, just eBay for 8 years. So I only do eBay all time, 40 hours to 80 hours a week minimum. That's all we do. You're going to learn your areas. There's just no doubt about it. But like on other people's videos, you know, I don't watch many at all because most people don't know their material. They think they're going to make it rich on YouTube, and it's just not that way. I don't. That's not my concern. You know, if I wanted to make more money, I'd just do a bunch of different garage sale and all these other videos because that's what's going on. I'd do the dumpster diving. I don't think there's a channel out there that's doing dumpster diving that's not getting at least some decent views. That's not my thing. Nothing against it. I love watching some of that. I don't have time to watch many of them. You know, I've watched the you know, Wade and all their videos, and Scott and Shane and all theirs, and you know, there's nothing wrong with any of those videos. My time's more valuable than watching a lot of that stuff. And again, nothing wrong with any of those videos. I would recommend them to you if you enjoy that sort of thing. But you know, there's not a lot of knowledge, I guess, given away and stuff like that. And you know, I'm done with clothing. So, you know, most of the people I watch who are doing YouTube videos are doing clothing videos, and I don't care what Nike shoes sell for what. Again, there's nothing wrong with selling Nike shoes. I wear Nike shoes, but I don't care anymore what they go for. I don't care to see, you know, 100 different shirts in a what sold video. You know, a shirt's a shirt to me. I mean, look-wise. I mean, you can show me a shirt and tell me it's any different brand. I wouldn't know the difference, and neither would most people. You know, it's not my thing. And again, I'm not criticizing anybody who sells clothing, because we did it for a couple years. Oh, thank you, Hopman. Since I've been watching Don's videos, my sales have been up over 30% each month. Less clothing, more collectibles. I totally dump clothing, I'm telling you. And Chris, Thrift Shop Hustler, is talking about totally dumping off and just getting into paper as well, too. I'm not going to shout out a figure, but if I told you how much we make just on paper a month, you'd probably be really surprised. It's into the 5 digits, well into the 5 digits. Just paper. You know, there's months, you know, as I said, I've given you out some totals and just records and things like that. You know, 10 grand in any niche is not anything strange for 1 month. Just that niche, you know. Let's see, William B. I sell anything paper. And greeting cards I sell greeting cards all the way back to, say, Revolutionary War era. You know, and there are some engraved cards that go back that far, just FYI. Greeting cards I sell constantly. I buy them in big, huge bulks. I've probably got a couple hundred up in my store now. I've probably got 1,000 or more sitting here in a box right up on the top shelf right now. I haven't put many up because we're approaching. I'm going to wait till the end of next month to put up all of our Christmas greeting cards at least. Because that's usually when the crafters will start pecking away at those. If you don't do greeting cards and you don't know or know how it works with greeting cards, there's two types of people that buy greeting cards. There's the crafters that we're going to buy them towards the end of summer, and they're going to actually make like vintage-looking Christmas ornaments out of them, or decorations, or something along that line. They'll sell them either online, or they'll sell them at like religious craft fairs and church festivals and things along that line. Now, the other group are ones that collect. And even in the collectors, there's several different types of collectors. There's ones that only collect Hallmark vintage cards. And then there's ones that, say, collect like cards with Santa Claus, or flock cards, or cards that have cutouts in them that are like paper dolls, or mechanical cards. Greeting cards in general sell extremely well, and there's just so many categories of greeting cards you can sell. Easter greeting cards sell well if they're ornate. Valentine's sell very well if they're ornate. And again, even the type of cards or the maker of the cards adds to the value. I talk about De La Rue. Any De La Rue greeting card will sell fairly well. You know, any standard De La Rue, even up into the 20s and 30s, De La Rue cards will sell. Raphael Tuck greeting cards will sell. Raphael Tuck made postcards and greeting cards. They made other items as well, as like books and Christmas items too. So there's just so many areas of this stuff. If it's paper, I sell it. So no reason to ask at all. If it's paper, I sell anything that's paper collectible, a piece of paper of any sort that's worth anything, I sell. Tickets or sheets of newspapers, flyers, receipts, empty envelopes. I sell philatelic items, so I do, you know, stamps. And I'm huge into stamps. We've got, a couple 100,000 stamps possibly. And I know that sounds like a lot, but a couple 100,000 stamps takes up like 1 3-foot shelf. You know, if you got stock books, a stock book can hold 10,000 stamps in it or more. It depends on the size of the stock book. And Duncan's on here; he knows what I'm talking about as well. When you do stamps, you buy huge bulks for, you know, lump sums. I may spend a couple $1,000 on a few stamp books, but, you know, I'm getting thousands of items that have some good value. If you know your items, no matter what category you're in, you cherry pick. You know, when you're sourcing, you buy the good ones, you pass on the cheap ones. I don't buy everything when I'm outsourcing. You know, I don't need to. I buy if I see something that's, you know, easy for me to sell and I know where to sell it, that's fine. Like the 78 record pick that I did. I've got 3 sources to sell those on. And again, people say, well, that doesn't sell on eBay. I never said that those records are all going to sell on eBay. I never once said that. I do Discogs and I do Amazon with records. I do another site, and I also have a mail order catalog that we send out through emails to some people too. So I don't have to rely on eBay for everything. And there's some items I don't even list on eBay at all. So, you know, the people who are only thinking about eBay market, you got to think outside the box. I don't just sell eBay. We've got 9 platforms, you know, and there's more sites than just those. You know, some records can go through heritage auctions or other platforms as well. It doesn't even have to be an online auction source to sell some of these. So break the habit of thinking of eBay. If you hit me up 2 or 3 years ago, I only did eBay. But nowadays I learned my lesson, and I learned that I can make almost double our income by expanding out into other markets. Now, you got to do it very carefully and cautiously, and it doesn't work well when you have as many items. We've got almost 60,000 eBay listings up between 3 different stores. So when you're doing that, you can't. Our stumbling block in the past was the fact that I couldn't list all those items on the other sites, because then I would have to be constantly taking down 40 or 50 items or more for the one site we were cross-listing every single day of the week. And I don't have the time to do that. So we've got the third-party app, and the third-party app with us, I just list a listing for wherever I'm going to list it, I list it through the third-party app. I'll create my listing in Sellbrite, and then from there, it's a click of a button, and I can promote it to or post it to all the channels that I want to all at the same time. So I'm only doing one listing. I've had people say, well, then you got to keep putting in separate listings here, separate listing there. You only do one listing with the third-party app. You don't have to do a listing. You don't have to list it on Amazon. You don't have to list it on eBay. You list it in the third-party app, and that exact same listing you did on that third-party app is broadcast, and that's how you get your listings on the other site. Once they're broadcast, if it sells on one site and it's listed or originated from the app, every single one that's originated from the app, if it sells on one site, the app will pull it down in the other sites, and I have nothing to worry about. It's a done deal. That is the key factor that's helped improve it, and where we've now been able to step up. Instead of just a few thousand, 2,000 or 3,000 things on Amazon, now we've got 5,000 and 10,000 items on Amazon, or almost to that point now, I should say. I know that was a little long-winded, but let's see here. Hang on. What countries do you block? I don't send to the Middle East. Nothing against anybody of any descent, religious background, or anything. I don't care what religion or what background anybody is in. I only block countries by safety of the mail service. That's the only factor I use. I don't care anything else. The only factor I look at it is from a business standpoint. I don't care politically wise, racially wise, country wise, ethnicity, or anything. I don't discriminate or care anything about that at all. I don't worry about that. I've never worried about stuff like that. It's not a factor. This is a business, so business is all that matters. I will sell to anybody for any reason as long as it's legal and, it's not some scam. That's just the way I would do it. Where I do send stuff to directly, I ship directly to some countries. I ship directly to Canada, Germany, France, England, Australia, of course, and Japan. Everything else goes through Global Shipping Program, or I won't ship to there as well. There are some countries in Africa that I don't ship to. There's some countries in South America that I won't ship to, just because, again, I base it on service. How good is the service? How good is the tracking? The countries I directly ship to, the tracking has no issues, and I can track it straight to my house. I've thought about adding, a few other countries here and there to my direct shipment list. I do have more direct shipments on one of my other stores, the big other store. But I do wholesale, and I've worked with some of these people for a long time. And it's a different atmosphere if I'm, say, shipping from a wholesaler versus shipping from, my self-fulfillment. So some of the items we sell through eBay, we actually ship through a wholesaler. We're within eBay's ruling. We're allowed to do this because we are a licensed wholesaler for the items we sell. We have a contract. I have receipts. I have bill of lading. I've got everything you need to legally. I'm basically a wholesaler, I should say. We've got permits and chain of custody for certain items and everything else you could possibly imagine. So it just depends. Yeah, jealousy. I guess you can call it that. I know what you're talking about there. I know I'm behind on that. Hang on, my feed just disappeared. That's like the worst annoying when the feed disappears. Hang on just a second. See if I can figure out where we're at. Almost there. Yeah, greeting cards. Yeah, Annie's talking about that too. Through the 50s are usually about the newest I will get. Yeah, and as she said, if it's newer, again, I'm very selective on that. Robert Reichs, I've learned so much from you. I get, and I don't want to be bragging. I don't want anybody to think of that as all, but I know that the information I'm giving out is good, not just because I'm saying it's good, but you would be surprised how many people send me notices or send me pictures of something they sold because of something I've talked about, or I've helped them distinguish the difference, or like Patreons or something. I quite often get people in my Patreon group who email me a listing, which I fully am fine, 100% fine. I always like to look at those, and I'll give them some recommendations for selling something easier or adding some words or something like that to it. And most of the time it works very quickly if you've got the right terminology in there. So my goal is to help. If I wasn't here to help, I'd just be taking some of the sponsors that I've been offered. You haven't seen a sponsor on my show yet. If that isn't at least proof enough that I am not here to get your money or to push my channel that way, I've had a lot of sponsors. I've also had a lot of people that have asked to do, I show up on their show and they show up on mine. I'm not trying to get any, cross-listing thing like that with shows. I'm not trying to rake it out on sponsors. That's not my game. That's not my game at all. Again, I could have a sponsor on here right this very second. I've got several choices to choose from, and I've had actually sites that have asked me to do stuff. In fact, one that does some kind of gaming show where you can go through their site and you can get responses and have other people in on some kind of game show thing. But I'm not into that. I'm not worried, and I don't want to be jumping through hoops to get a few extra bucks or something out of this. If I make good money on this and it takes a while to do it, so be it. Obviously I'd be happy to make a lot of money doing this, but that's nowhere near my goal at all in any way, shape, or form. I'm a reseller, and that's my whole life is reselling. A lot of the people that I see on here aren't resellers. They claim to be resellers, and even some of the bigwigs who have tens of thousands of subscribers on here, they only have handfuls of items in their store. And even if you look at what they sell and what they talk about, there's just no way they're making the money they are off of doing reselling. They're making it off of you guys or support groups or something. And I know I have a Patreon group that is paid, but I'm not going to promise anybody's going to make anything out of it. Most of my videos in here or even on Patreon, you got to pay attention to the video, and you're going to have to do your own legwork to find those items. I'm giving you the tools, but I can't promise anybody's going to make anything. You can't watch a video of mine and be rich. You can't watch every video I do and be rich unless you put the legwork in. And even in my Patreon videos, which are, people pay for them. There's quite a few Patrons in the feed right now. I tell you got to open up a window and look up some of this stuff. I just give you names and stuff sometimes because, again, I don't know what you're going to find. I can't tell you to look for one specific book unless it's something that I find quite often. And I do give out BOLO lists in Patreon, but they're in video form. I want to give you more than just a list. I want to give you a reason on which one's the best. I want to give you a reason on why I look for it or why you would find that item over something else. I've been given, people send me other people's private BOLO lists, and I've never asked for one of them. I've never done a single thing with them. I don't even look at them. If you know me, I don't open up any attachments. But I have seen a few that people have shared with me. I had no other choice but to look at them. Most of the BOLO lists I see are just some random list of items that sell for a lot of money on eBay. That's not going to make you money. You got to know more than just to look for one specific shirt that's worth, a lot of money. You got to know more about it. You got to know more information on it. Like the stuff that we sell is mostly historical. You got to know basics. And Annie, I know knows a lot of the printing industry, probably more so than me in some areas as well. You got to know about this. Like her talking about looking for Victorian greeting cards. Those are the best ones to look for, mostly. Not everyone. There's like White House Christmas cards that can go for a ton of money. That's another area that you might look for, or a congressman or someone famous. There's just so many areas, but you got to know more. You can't just pin yourself into one specific little area, and it changes every day too. So, I don't want to ramble on. Let's go get some more questions here. I'm going to run it just a little bit longer here because I've got a little time. The wife's off talking to somebody now, so let me pop down here. Do you use any wholesale suppliers for FBA? I use a wholesaler for FBA, yes, Annie. But for the most part, if I'm going through a wholesaler like that for FBA, a pallet will show up here and I will have to box it up. That's the best bet. I used to, now I for those who do FBA, most people, including me, used to buy the Home Depot boxes. But Walmart now has the same basic size box for almost half the cost as the Home Depot boxes. Just FYI for those of you that do the Amazon prep for you. I don't pay somebody to do Amazon prep. No, if that's the question. And yes, that is a thing. There are companies or businesses. In fact, there was somebody on YouTube, and I can't remember the name of the channel, that he was going into, him and his, I guess it's his girlfriend or something. Somebody might recognize who it was, but they were going to like a fulfillment or like a processing center, and they were doing jeans before that. I'm sorry I don't remember the name. I think they pretty much almost stopped doing videos. But they were doing that service. I personally would never do that service. I want to know how it's packaged myself, whether I do it myself or not. If it's one of my guys, I trust that they're going to do it my way. I've got 3 guys here that have done packing. And as I said, I've got people that take over when we go out of business or out of town. Like when we've got to go to a doctor's appointment in Michigan for my youngest son. It's a couple hours away, and I'll usually have one of the employees just fill in, and he'll get a list of what needs to be done and a list of what to list, and if there's photographs, what to photograph. And once a blue moon, I might have to, get a call or something on a setting on the camera or something for exposure setting or something like that. But other than that, I don't use the services. In the past, we've had a wholesaler that would actually send it, as you're talking about, but it's not another company. The wholesaler we've worked with in the past has offered to send it for an increase in fee. And if we do, I'm ungated on DVDs in both categories. There's 2 categories you can list DVDs on Amazon if you didn't know that. There's entertainment collectibles, which you can list collectible DVDs. And then there's just the standard DVD section. There's also there are two separate areas of CDs. There's 2 separate areas of vinyl. There's collectible vinyl, and then there's the new NOS regular standard vinyl. So I can list in all of those categories because I've been on Amazon for a long time, and we've been ungated. I guess you'd say we're grandfathered in to DVDs and CDs. And in all honesty, I don't mess with a lot of those because the last couple that we did FBA on with those. The cases are broken through the way they cheaply threw them in a cheap padded thing, and I've tried padding them before I put them in, and there's just a long hassle with CDs and stuff on there. DVDs you're far better off doing on Amazon, in all honesty. CDs though, the breakage rate, because they'll throw them in a big box with some other stuff and they bounce around, and if you don't have them protected, Amazon's not protecting them. I'm not saying they don't do that, or they do that all the time, but we've had several that were cracked cases, and the only answer to that is you're going to end up having to just refund the buyer, and they're going to get to keep it usually. It's just not worth the hassle on Amazon. Let's see. William B. I was watching one of your videos the other day on corkscrews or wine bottle openers that night. Found a nice brass one. Couldn't find any comps, so I listed for 50. It sold in 9 minutes. Corkscrews you're going to have to watch out on. $50. I would have, if you don't know and you can't find any comps, it's something really ornate. I put horrendously high prices on them. We've sold corkscrews, and I didn't have an idea on it. It was from Switzerland. The highest priced corkscrew I ever sold was like a boy that was dressed kind of like a Navy person. And I found out that it was like some kind of character from a cartoon series in Switzerland. We got $950 for it. And I put it up as a auction because I had no clue on that. I would honestly recommend on corkscrews auctions, if you don't know. Put them up at a high starting bid and put them up that way. I very rarely, if almost never, say do an auction, but corkscrews, man, ever since that $950 corkscrew, I'm very cautious on certain categories like that. And Terapeak wasn't a good way to find it. Terapeak has some very major drawbacks too, which I'm probably going to go into a video, but on stuff like that, even Worth Point isn't totally useful on stuff like that because a lot of those higher end stuff may have been sold at a place like Heritage, may not include all of those things in like a Worth Point lookup. So just FYI. Again, I'm not criticizing those who have Worth Point because I pay for PopPsych for records. It's $36 a year for PopPsych. It's a conversion. I think it's a Swiss company and you have to convert it. It's like $36. It's well worth it because I use PopPsych probably every day of my life, in all honesty. I have it on my phone even. Let's see here. And again, thanks for the super chats there, folks. Melissa, I did clothing. It just does not sell anymore, but I do sell coats. I said I do leather coats, only leather. I've got a real nice Swiss coat here that's from the 50s or so that I did buy the other day because it was $1. It's a real nice green wool one. It looks almost like a World War II German trench coat, in all honesty. I haven't found the maker, so for all I know, it is some military one, but I really don't think so. Vintage clothes so do well, even selling now. Rest of clothing, they're dead. I sell vintage hard goods and do really well with them. Vintage hard goods do very well. I fully agree. Are you a collector? I got some slides, 75 from a concert that was held at the Take It Easy Ranch Campground in Maryland on July 1977. Look up and see if you can find anything else from that and see who was there, if there's anybody famous or something along that line. I sell slides all the time. The most we ever sold a 35 millimeter slide from was the Big Bopper, and I got $600 out of his slides. His son, if you don't know who the Big Bopper is, he died with Buddy Holly and Richie Valens in the plane crash. And he was a DJ. His son recreates his act. Now, his son has hit me up, Richard P. Richardson the second or something. I don't want to call it any names, but he was constantly trying to get me to give him to him for just like a swap, and I ended up getting some crazy money out of him. The person who I sold him to actually was writing a book on him. His son said I couldn't use the images. I don't think that's actually true either, because if you're doing a book and you're not marketing to sell the images, you can use those slides in a book, which the person who bought them from me actually is going to have a book on rockabilly. So 35mm slides sell very well. Just look them up. Try to find something similar. They don't even have to be slides. Try to find even a photo brochure or something from that. If anything from that campground event in Maryland sold for something, I would price the slides at least in that ballpark range, if not higher. Max Profit. I have some haters on my channel as well. You're always going to get haters. I have few as I'm surprised I don't have more, in all honesty. And again, I know two of them by name, for sure, without a doubt. I know who they are because, again, people have told me that they badmouth me or going around, and it's always the same 2 or 3 people. Again, you're going to live with that. I don't really worry about it anymore. It's just the way it is. Again, a thumbs down on YouTube counts to the plus for us. So if you leave a bunch of thumbs down, it counts. It's good for a channel. It means action. YouTube does not distinguish between a thumbs down and a thumbs up when it goes for you. Obviously, for people who are looking at the video, you want the thumbs up, but it doesn't affect your income or anything else on YouTube whatsoever at all. Let me pop down and get some more questions here. Callie, I've been on eBay and never sold clothes. Sold collectibles from the start. We sold clothing because I wasn't up on all the collectibles, and we didn't know where to source when we got out of college. So clothing I could get all the time, 8 years ago. Books I could scan constantly till I was blue in the face and constantly pull out good books. We stopped doing books when Amazon did the raise on the fees because it wasn't practical to be sending in books for only a couple dollars now. They cut off the bread and butter. The bread and butter for a majority of booksellers that were doing FBA 5, 6, 7 years ago was the $6 to say $12 books. I would sell tons of them. I would just send them in and they'd be gone. And in all honesty, you can still do that with some books. And rank isn't everything in books either. So I don't always even worry about the ranks in some books. Like if they're there's transportation button price guides. And there's 3 or 4 of them that handle just transportation buttons. They're thick books. They're hardbound. They're like $150 a book. They have some horrendously awful ranking. But if I list them, they're gone almost immediately because they never show up. So that's just an example of something like that. Let's see here. Only 500,000 bits of paper. Must be more than that. I'm not trying to overestimate, but me and the wife were talking and trying to figure out a process to get bulk listed up here. And I can't do a virtual assistant because they would have to have the item or know something, and I just wouldn't trust the ability of the people. So we don't source any more than we have to, in all honesty. I went and we did the sourcing trip the other day just because we were over there, and I figured, let me see what I can find and let's just throw a video together. I haven't sourced in a while, so I do miss doing some of the thrift store sourcing, but our good thrift stores are all closed. Savers, both of the Savers went out of business. Goodwill scans their books these days, or they send them to their own auction. Our Goodwill stores here have their own auction site through the Goodwill network as well. Salvation Army scans theirs. They send them to higher end stores as well, from what I see. there's not much sourcing in thrift stores around here. The thrift stores I did go to and we did source at are, a little ways away from my house. It's somewhere I don't go to all the time. So it was nice to source anyway. Do you use your own store categories? Or I use both. I have my own store categories, Linda, and we do eBay. Obviously, we sort through eBay's, and then we have our own separate store categories. I wished I would have separated some more because the collectibles category in my store has thousands of items. I haven't distinguished them. If you didn't start store categories when you first started listing in that category, what it does to give you separation in those store categories is going to put all of your items from collectibles into like a unclassified, I don't remember what the title says, but it's like an unclassified section. Then you're going to have to move them all back to wherever you want them at that point. So I just haven't messed with it. And if we do another store or something like that, I will. So FYI. Posts or sports cards. They're still mass producing sports cards, Robert, in my book. When in 1991 they killed the sports card market when they dumped the market with comic ball cards. The comic ball with Nolan Ryan and Reggie Jackson and the Warner Brothers characters. The holograms in there used to be worth a lot of money, and then at the end of the day we realized that they mass produced these and made so many of them, and then they just dumped the market and they killed all the value. And they did this to all of them. Tops and Upper Deck were some of the two worst ones for doing that in my book. And I don't do sports cards, but I did collect non-sports cards, and we made a lot of money doing that. So I have kept up on the market here. I don't see a big resurgence in sports cards. The resurgence or the pricing increases in sports cards I see are in slabbed cards. For people who aren't sports cards collectors, though, that are people that want to invest in them. People are investing in those in high-dollar graded comic books, thinking that that's going to be the next wave. And my thought on that is, I would never do that because collectible categories come and go very quickly. Market could crash overnight. Earlier items that, like certain types of comic books, the collectors for them are fewer and fewer. Postcards to some extent you could say that about, but I don't see that as an issue because people buy postcards for many different reasons. But sports cards, I'd be very optimistic if that's making any sort of comeback, especially if you go to Walmart and you see the amount of stuff just sitting there on the shelves there that a lot of times I see marked down later on even. Let me slide down a little bit here. We're going to cut this off about the 9 o'clock mark. So we got about 10 more minutes here since we're rolling with a lot of good questions. Well, thank you, Leo. I appreciate that. Please say Robert, okay? If I missed your name. I dumped, let's see, Humpton. I dumped 37 pairs of great jeans for $25 through Facebook to a new reseller yesterday. Less clothing, more collectibles equals more sales. Hauptmann's hitting it. And this isn't just me. Duncan's on here too will tell you that collectibles sell all year round. If there's a reseller online on YouTube here telling you that it's like this for everybody, they don't know what they're talking about, or they only do their certain small categories. That's why I said I couldn't believe someone was going to send me a nasty notice about me showing a haul on records. If you don't sell records, maybe it's something you should sell because I make a ton of money at it. And so do, there's people who I personally know that made $500,000 in selling records. Profit last year just selling records. That's all they do. It's not that hard to do once you've built up a huge assortment of stuff. Once you've got your knowledge, you can't do it in your first year or your second year. It's going to take you some time, but the markets are there. Anybody who's telling you here on YouTube that, everybody is dead in the summertime, you probably shouldn't watch their channel anymore because they're so narrow. They've pinholed you into a narrow, certain section of selling. Now, I know there's people that come out and say clothing does awesome in the summer for them. It depends on what you sell. There's very few people, even some of the big wigs on here with, close to 100,000 subscribers don't sell that much, clothing in the summer. There's some with, tens of thousands of listings on YouTube, as I said, that aren't anything other than trying to get you to pay for their services. So, again, I do have a service, but I'm not promising you anything. You're going to have to do the legwork for whatever you're watching on my channels. I can give you on my Patreon things that I look for and things that I make money for, specifics, But, you know, you're going to have to do the legwork. You're going to have to know the difference between certain versions. You're going to have to know where to find them. You got to find the source. You know, it's not like I can tell you to go to Savers and look for this specific kinds of jeans, because you're not going to find a specific card anywhere. You just got to know those areas to make the money. That's my take on it. You know, and that's from me I've done certain collectibles since I was a child. I inherited my father's stamp collection when I was 7. I've been into coins forever. And I've got a real good coin video coming out here, and I've talked about it. Patreon's got a touch on it already on that. I'm going to touch on an area that we make a lot of money in, and coins, and something that anybody can do, anybody. So just FYI. That should be up in the next day or two. So, what about live performances on reels, Aaron? Live performances on reels can sell, like if you're talking like you've got a concert. As long as it was actually recorded at the concert, it's usually pretty good. You got to watch out, though. Sometimes people will record records onto reel-to-reels, too. So it depends on what it is. If you got a live Jimi Hendrix concert, you might be able to just name your own price on something like that. If it's legit and you can track and show that it was actually recorded at the concert. Now, if it's just like someone's pre-recorded, you know, they recorded stuff off a radio or something, I don't usually even mess with those. Most people will just pretty much, you know, erase those and re-record something else on those tapes. Hang on, let's see if the chat's going to slide down without disappearing. Are reel-to-reel players worth selling? Yes, Melissa, for sure. They're also worth taking apart. I bought one for $2, and it didn't work. Didn't work at all. It turned on and it lit up, but it didn't spin, so I figured it was a belt or the drive was gone out of it. If I fixed it, it was only worth $150. I took it apart piece by piece. Every single screw, even the screws that were in it, I took apart. I set in a bag and sold the screw bag for $34. We got almost $400 for the parts. I couldn't sell the whole thing for $150 with $50 shipping, but I got over $400 for the parts. If it wasn't, and it didn't work. So as a non-working one, I might have got $30 or $40 for it online, maybe, and that was a big maybe. But as the parts, just the hub, or I guess their hubs are locked down to hold the reel on, I got $30 and $40 a piece for the 2 or 3 I think that came with the one I got. So parts, I'll take stuff apart any day of the week, and reel-to-reels are a good thing to take apart as long as it's in decent condition. The parts, just the buttons on those can sell for $10 or $15. Parts sell for anything. Toy parts, pieces, any of that stuff sells for money. If I get one and it doesn't work, it's going to be pieced out into parts. It depends on the model, though, of course. Look them up and see what the parts go for. Parts for reel-to-reels are the bomb. I think we've taken apart 5 or 6 of them. I didn't even know what they were called, the parts, when we first started doing this. I just looked up, you know, parts. I did a reel-to-reel. I did the brand, and I put replacement. I think I typed in my search, or part. And I looked up and I learned all the parts on a reel-to-reel over time. So, you know, we've done 5 or 6 of them. And I only have a small little box of pieces left. I don't do the chassis of them. Usually I just trash that, or it actually goes in recycling. But parts of those is what I do if I can't sell the whole one. Not too many of the bands, mostly background of crowds and a few classic ones of the police arresting a concert attendee. Yeah, I don't know how well. You want people in most of those for your slides on that. Recording now, huh? Let's see here. Yeah, Annie's probably right. I would sell them as a lot if that's what they are. Yeah, good some advice there, Annie. That's exactly what I would say on a lot. If they had people in them, you can sell individual artists separately. Yeah, Scott had got some. He had asked me on some that he has some 3D ones, actually. Stuff like that, I look through them. I look through every one. We've got several light tables. Thrifty Blondie Adventures and Treasure Hunting. I'm in Toledo, how Aaron really lacks, and really the lake sucks here. Yeah, when I was a child, you didn't want to go swimming in the lake either. I did, but you don't really want to. Nowadays, it's worse because of all the runoff in the lake. Well, thank you, Max Profit. I appreciate that. I have 2 wire recording reels a long-gone relative made back in the day. I'd love to hear what's on them. Suppose I need to buy a working recorder to hear what's on them. Those are expensive. You can play those on your own. I've seen somebody do it. It's just a piece of wire, basically, and it looked like a wire spool. I actually have some blank wires that you would record on with what he's talking about. But you can run them, I think, across a finger, or I think maybe it was shoot. He ran something across. There's a video on how to play those, but you can run your finger across. It wasn't a finger. It was something on his finger, and it was crude, but you could hear what was actually on the actual wire recording. I was really surprised. Blinded by science. Yeah, we don't drink anything. Well, the water in Toledo comes out of Lake Erie. Facts are all based on models, not science. That is not the case. Facts are based on repeatable, continuously repeatable evidence, not models. Facts are not based on I went through college for 6 years. I have a master's degree, actually. Facts are based on actual science. So I will have to disagree with you on that one, Carl, fully. Models mean nothing. For most of everything science related. Models mean nothing for a lot of that. It's actually based on evidence, factual evidence of repeatable stuff. If you can't repeat something, a process or something, there's nothing model-wise about it at all. There's no factual thing that says that works. If you're running a test, and if you add a certain thing in, and every time you do it, that's factual if it works. That chemical or that process is factual. That's the science behind it. Science means it has to be repeatable and testable. Testable is the key on that. And that's just like researching. That's why I say if you do research only by one avenue and you have no baseline to compare it to, that's not scientific. That's nothing. You have to be able to run the same version of it in a different way to prove that one way or the other means something different. So I am fully into science, fully agree in science. I've taken many science classes. Science is factual depending on what type you're talking about. There's pseudoscience too, though. Models mean nothing for the majority of every scientist out there doing stuff. Their results, their factual evidence is based on repeatable, constant testing of whatever they're doing. So I don't want to beat a dead horse on that one, but that's factual in my opinion. And global warming, again, I'm not going to beat a dead horse, Carl, at all. I'm not trying to criticize anybody, but 99.9% of every single scientist in this country and every other country on the globe agrees. The factual evidence is there for it. If you've got a closed environment and you're dumping stuff into the environment that ruin the environment, you can't get rid of it unless you stop dumping it in the environment. It makes no sense. We're in a closed-in environment for the most part. That's why the ozone is gone, because of chemicals we put into the environment. That's a perfect example of why global warming is a fact. So again, I know I'm probably losing some people on this, but I fully agree with the facts of the matter. These aren't models playing into it. These are factual basis on the amount of stuff released into the atmosphere based on hundreds of years of information from actual mining, locked in CO2 emissions in from like the polar ice caps, because you can judge how much CO2 I'm not going to go into the details. I'm not going to get lost in a big train here, but the point is it's factual. That's why 99.9% of every single scientist on the globe agrees with it. That's not me saying this. That means that 99.9% of every 100 people that are scientists agree that this is a factual evidence. You know, runaway greenhouse, the same thing basically is what happens to Mars. You know, we don't want to be Mars. But I'm not trying to go science fact on us here. I know the factual evidence in what I saw on it. Let's just put it that way. And I know how science actually works. I've had many classes from, physicists and scientists, full-fledged doctoral scientists in college, as well as in earning my master's degree. Yeah, Annie's telling you there's places you can send some of those to and have them digitized too. Yeah, Sue, under promise, over deliver. That's what we do with records. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm not one to be... The global warming is not political. That's just factual. It's based on tens of thousands of scientists. You've got a tiny little bit of scientists that are actually scientists that, in fact, I'm just going to throw this out here, and if I lose a few more viewers, I'm just going to throw this out here. The science deniers, the ones who say global warming aren't there, look up who's paying them. That's all you got to do. The last 3 that came out and were challenging people that's saying that global warming wasn't factual at all worked for the fossil fuel industry. So, if you don't buy that, if you believe that information, fine. But, 99.9% of every single scientist in the world, not just the U.S., agrees with global warming based on facts. And constantly there's another one going over from the denier side to the agreeer side because they've looked at the actual hard evidence. The hard evidence. There's nothing tied to it other than actual evidence of the CO2. And it's not so much the CO2, it's how quickly it's getting into the environment. CO2 will kill you. Don't tell me it's not going to kill a planet. If you don't think CO2 is a problem and dumping it that much into the atmosphere, why don't you go sit in your car, run it with the car or with your garage closed, and see how quickly you die from CO2? It's a fact. These are facts. It's frustrating looking at the evidence. And again, this is evidence. This is based on factual science, evidence, science. These aren't some religious based or anything else. These are based on science. 99.9% of every scientist in this world on the entire globe believes in global warming. That's a fact. That is a fact. I will not listen to someone who is paid for by a fossil fuel company or the oil industry to tell me that this isn't happening, because I can see the facts. If you've had a terrarium and it's a closed-in terrarium or something, you dump in something into it, it's not going to be able to heal itself. You can't throw in a plastic bag in the water and it's going to fix itself. It doesn't work that way. You can't dirty up something in a closed environment and expect it to fix itself. It's going to take tens of thousands of years, and we'd all be dead before global warming is solved if we don't do something. That's a fact. Again, fact. I know Carl's probably going to be mad at me, but that's a fact. I've seen the actual reports. I've seen where this comes from. I wrote a report on it. I spent 2 months digging into it, so I knew what's going on. I don't trust anybody. I wouldn't say I'd believe everything until I read the facts either, but I've read most of the reports that they're talking about. So, again, I'm not going to get back into that. Let's see, Hauptmann. I sometimes get complainers about World War II photos being too small. I'm sorry, soldiers didn't shoot. Yeah, 8x10s. Yeah, size is a big difference, and you will see the size on some of those smaller ones being a factor in how much they sell for. So, anyway, we're going to cut it off here in just a minute. Let's see if I can get 1 or 2 more questions. I was looking all day long today for some vintage stuff like you show in your shows, but I couldn't find nothing. I had a home run with Sherwood Electronic, but nothing like you present. You got to go to specific local live auctions, estate sales. You're always going to find vintage stuff at too. Now let's see here. Either my chat is frozen or nope, it's frozen. Well, we're going to cut it off here because my chat won't go down or do anything else right now, so I am stuck on that. Again, I appreciate everybody coming on here. I will keep it away from certain topics. And again, I don't really talk about politics. Issues with stuff like the globe and that has no political nature in my book. It's just leaving something better for our kids. I've got kids in this world, so when I die, they're still going to be here. If you can't see all the pollution and stuff going on, again, I'll just say this and I won't bring this up ever again. I'll try and cross that out of my list of stuff. I live in a place where, Flint, Michigan's right here. That's stuff put in the water. I live in a place where my water, my drinking water, I wasn't allowed. I couldn't even touch it. They didn't even want you to get in the water. You couldn't take a shower. You had to use bottled water for everything because of the chemicals and stuff that were dumped into it. The Lake Erie is not going to clean itself. The air is not going to clean itself. We are the only ones that caused it this way, and we're the only ones that can fix it. So, even the fossil fuel companies have reports that say that what's going on is tied to stuff that they do. They just weren't released by them. It's whistleblowers and stuff that put this stuff out there. But anyway, a lot of these companies have signed on, thank God, and hopefully it'll hit a point where we'll be able to fix it before we are, a runaway greenhouse effect. But anyway. Lighter subject, we hopefully will have some more bolos out through this weekend. As I said, I will have one on coins. Tuesday at 7 p.m., I will have a very special guest on here. I'm sure he will be well liked. I'm sure a lot of you will know him. I will announce who, what, where, and everything else on Monday night. Let's see, my next Patreon video is shot, is ready to roll, and you will see how to clean records without a record cleaner. So I'm going to show that in the next Patreon video, as well as other topics as I usually do. So hope everybody had a good evening. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. If you haven't hit the like button, please hit that like button down below. Again, have a good evening. Enjoy it, and glad to have you on for the day.